You guys ready? I think we're ready, so you can go ahead. I'm calling this January 22nd, 2024 regular meeting of the Mancos RE-6 School Board to order. The time is 6 p.m. Heather, roll call, please.
Craig Benally.
Here.
Richard Figueroa.
Here.
Rachel McWhorter. Here. Emily Hutchison.
Here.
Present.
Would everyone please rise and join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Just a reminder to turn off your cell phones during the meeting. If you want to hold sidebar conversation, take it out in the hall. It's a meeting of the Board of Education in public rather than a meeting with the public. During this meeting, there are 2 times for public participation. The first is at the beginning of the meeting to hear comments regarding specific agenda items. The second is at the end of the meeting when general comments relating to school issues will be heard. To participate in either, we require that you sign up the sign-in sheet over there at the front of the door. And when you are called on for comments, please state your name clearly for the record and exercise your speech rights responsibly. Limit your commentary to 3 minutes. Okay. Let's see here. So we are looking at the agenda. Might be interesting to note that we are, if things are a little choppy, we are moving to a new agenda form in order to be more in line with MTSS practices with the school as a whole. So I know that we all have our agendas probably up on screens, except for Mr. Hunter at the moment. If anybody would like to move to approve the agenda or make any changes to the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda. Second.
Craig, second. Heather, call the question.
Craig Benally.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye. Excellent. We have 2 minutes that we need to have approved as well, previous minutes. One of them we'll just do them separately. The December 18th, 2023 regular meeting minutes were in our packets. Anybody want to make a motion there, or are there any corrections?
I move that we approve the minutes from December 18th, 2023.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Heather called the question.
Craig Benally.
Aye.
Richard Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter. Aye.
All right, and we also had a January 8th, 2024 special meeting and those minutes as well in our, any
Move to approve those minutes as written.
Any second?
Second.
Craig seconds. Heather called the question.
Craig Benally.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchison Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter. Aye.
Is there any public participation over there, or is this just DAC? DAC in the house. Awesome. All right, well, guess what? You guys are up next. So Mr. Cordray, do you want to introduce?
Yes, so for the District Accountability Committee, we have the District Accountability Vice President, Kaylin Everett, and District Accountability Committee Secretary, and that's Miss Sarah Levine. And they're gonna talk about the most recent DAC meeting, which was about 2 weeks ago, where we discussed Objective 4C. And perhaps anything else about the DAC that they wish to talk about as we build this relationship between the DAC and the board.
So you guys had just seen 4C before we had, and so we got it after you, but I felt like it was a very good discussion. We didn't have a huge participation group that meeting, so I feel like we got a lot of good input though.
Yeah, some of the things, we had a lot of really good ideas that I think came out of that. I think the feedback from the parents especially and staff that were there was that we thought that idea of a portfolio, a digital portfolio, kind of backing up student learning, but also as being kind of a roadmap for their future. It's a great idea. So everybody could see a really wonderful benefit in that. We were hoping to really kind of especially help build out that roadmap for here's where you are, here's where you wanna be, here's maybe a plan of how to get there in addition to just backing up student learning. Because that might be really viable, especially if you're going to a four-year college, but also if you're not. And if you have the trade school on the horizon, or wherever you might go, what's your plan after high school? A really big thing that Nicole Gregerson suggested was possibly not having that due senior year. And if we could relook at some of those timelines, we got great feedback with people that had seniors, and they're like, it's a stressful, crazy time. Often, some seniors, if you've spoken on this, are not even, and so did Victoria Peterson, sometimes our seniors aren't even at the school very much, and that's difficult to apply for colleges and get all of your things done credit-wise here. And it might be really more self-serving to have things done junior year with a plan of implementation senior year and moving forward. So we thought that was a really thoughtful idea.
The eighth grade, we thought maybe an eighth grade portfolio and then followed up with the junior year portfolio. So then it'd be ready for when applications are due in January and everything, to have it, polish it off that senior year, but really have the bulk of it done your junior year, because senior year is so crazy.
Yeah, I think some other suggestions that were passed on to us was check-ins, maybe yearly check-ins to make sure students are making progress. Definitely a written plan for those kids that are transitioning in and what that looks like for them. Say they come in halfway through senior year, is that still a requirement, or how do they kind of circumvent that? Trying to think of, there was another, possibly using advisory time pointedly, but not getting that fatigue in doing a project like this over this many years, because we're looking at 6 through 12, and we don't want that to kind of lose its oomph with kids, and really making it personal, but also purposeful for the kids. So
there was a lot of positive feedback from SWOs and other places that do this, that really this was bigger than like senior night as the night that they presented theirs, and just a lot of positive feedback that comes from building this portfolio.
I think SWOs is, and we have a lot of teachers and a lot of parents that have worked at SWOs, and they've been doing something very similar to this. They had wonderful thoughts about possibly accountability defending what they're doing in front of a panel and community members. I know Ms. Brad Higginbotham has had over 20 years of working with students on this. He's had really great feedback and ideas on how to implement this the best way. So I think our biggest thing was mostly possibly not having this due senior year. Parents seem to be really concerned about that, and that junior year would be more viable time. So that was our big takeaway about
And
RC.
Nicole she just really hit the nail on the head, and it was towards the end of the meeting when she brought that up, and everyone was like, that's kind of where we felt that answer was to kind of those senior stresses and the deadlines for a lot of, applications, is to have it do, the bulk of it done junior year.
And I think as far as just other DAC, it's really helpful kind of going through the strategic plan. We're getting a lot of, with the exception of last week, we have a lot of really stable parents that are showing up every week.
Yeah.
And I think
Good.
that helps with disseminating this information. And then we have a lot of really prominent, helpful people in the community that tend to kind of dip into different organizations throughout our community that are on the DAC, and that really helps kind of spread the work that you all are doing.
That's tremendous. It's been a long road to get that group built to that level, and I am very grateful for that.
This is year 7 for me.
Yeah.
So it's,
So thank you both for your time. I know it's outside of your normal day-to-day, and as a parent, you gotta show up, you gotta read the reports, you gotta do the work. It's a lot, so, thank you. How many members do we have total of DAC this year, Todd? Do you have it, or do you guys have a number?
I should have this. I would assume 12 to 15 is going to be my
Wow.
estimate, but I can get you an exact roster.
That's tremendous. Excellent. And then, I think also one thing to note is, we're really trying to be mindful, not just around rolling DAC into reading the strat plan reports and opining, being able to have things presented to them. It is really a lot of information that is presented here at board meetings, but also trainings that we're looking at, a couple of trainings to be inclusive of the district accountability committee. And that is also, I think, helpful to your point, Ms. Levine, that translates into the community, because that's taken forward into those groups, whether it be through a business, a social circle, an activity, a sport, whatever, just to kind of translate or relay that information accurately is really, really helpful, so.
I think the biggest one for us so far has been the attendance policy has been really helpful, kind of really unmuddling it for people. And that's been huge, but I think with 4C, what we saw too is we're just approaching the standard on this. And it helps parents knowing this is coming down the pipe, but it's not there yet, which is okay. And so by the time it's ready for full rollout, everybody's like aware that it's coming, which
Right.
helps. So,
Right.
yeah.
Excellent. Any questions for these ladies? Victor, Craig?
Just appreciate you coming in and being part of that group.
And thanks for the feedback on the portfolio. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
That was good info.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. All right, moving on, LRC, Mr. Figueroa.
Okay, there's a lot of information that I'm trying to process around the LRC, so I'm gonna just do a little bit at a time in the sense of just giving the board the most critical, but not too much information. The one thing I wanted to say first is that there's some bills to just be aware of. One bill is, this bill was presented last year but didn't succeed. And it's back again. It's an independent ethics commission. And that independent ethics commission wants to include local boards, district and special districts under their authority. So if there's an ethics complaint or concern, then they want to hear that concern and make a decision. And so that's at a state level, this commission. Right now, this commission oversees state boards and state entities. But the bill is about including local school boards and special district school boards.
What's that bill number?
That bill number is 24-1073, and it was introduced.
That House bill or Senate bill?
It's a House bill.
Thank you.
And then we have a House Bill 24-1087. This is just a bill that, so currently we have a teaching endorsement for special education. This bill allows districts, allows the state to create another pathway to endorse special education teachers. In other words, it makes it a little easier. So right now you have to take classes for special education, then you have to take a state test, then you have to do an induction program, they wanna say, look, this other pathway is not gonna require the classes. If you pass the state test and you do an induction program, then you can, get your endorsement.
I'm
So,
assuming this is because of the rarity of special ed instructors that
right, they're making it easier because it's
I'm hoping
statewide.
hoping it's not a dumbing down of the kind of requirements.
Well, I mean, they still have to pass the state exam. The state exam typically represents the coursework that you would have had to pass. So, I feel like it allows districts to be able possibly to support staff to get their endorsement. I think the reason is because it's hard to get special
Yeah.
education teachers, so they're just trying to make it a little easier. So I just wanted to talk about those two things, and then the last thing I'm gonna put on the CASB. And that's the budget stabilization factor, which is what they also call the BS factor. As you know, we talked about our last board meeting, Polis's state budget recommended that we basically get to zero when it comes to the budget stabilization. And I just I spoke with Chrissy, and Chrissy's been a good resource. And I'm gonna utilize her more as I'm listening to these different state folks talking about various bills, but this particular one is, for example, right now, they hold back from our district about $90,000 because of the BS factor. Polis's bill wants to say, we want to zero that out. We want not to take anything off of the district. We want to give them what they are supposed to get, $98,000 or $90,000. The big thing about this now is that the legislators the information I've gotten, the feel is that the legislators want to support bringing down the BS factor. But the question is bringing down the BS factor a certain amount of money, or are they gonna zero it out? Meaning that we'll get the full $90,000, or are they gonna say, no, it's gonna be $45,000 this next year, or are they gonna do it at all? So the general feeling is that the legislators will do something, but we don't know what they're gonna do when it comes to BS factor. I just also want to just tell you that, I was telling you that, Governor Polis, this idea that they're gonna pay off the BS factor when it's really, they're gonna buy down the BS factor. Those are two different terms. Pay off means that they would not only make it zero, but they owe us $5.5 million that they need to pay us. Well, most likely, we're never gonna see that $5.5 million. That would be payoff, but I don't know what family, what state takes out a loan and never has to pay it back. Only in our world do we see that.
College students,
That's my
sorry,
update.
that was being cynical.
Anything else?
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. I think I would, just kind of bring to light that for the benefit of, Rachel and Craig, that a lot of times when, and also the benefit of the public, when, Victor is bringing, forth certain legislative bills that are House or Senate bills, it's in an effort to get us to look at that, read it, be aware of it. It doesn't mean the bill has passed. It doesn't mean that, it's a very preemptive reporting of this is what could be in our wheelhouse. So
Thank you for saying that, Emily. I just also want to say, I need to really say this is an introduction. In other words, they're just starting to look at this. I'll try to keep you updated as we go along. I'll make sure that I do a better job about saying, here's the bill. If you guys don't have the tracker information, you can track all the bills with this link I can send you guys if you want it. So just let me know if you're interested in just tracking some of these bills and knowing what's on the floor. And all you have to do is just look at the education part of it. There's a lot of bills, but there's an education part.
Is the tracker you have, is it specific for education?
I believe so. Yeah, that's all
I
I've
have one
seen
that's
now.
like specific for water and land
Right,
legislation. So-
ours is just, all the ones I've seen were all education.
Okay, because there's a lot of legislation out there.
Would you guys want to have that link, or do you have that link?
I think, it's worthwhile discussion that, Mr. Cordray, now that we're transitioning to this new, agenda, I would very much appreciate if we could put some type of a link in there, where we could easily get to that information, rather than go dig it out and pull it out.
I'll send it to all you guys, and then you.
And then we
guys
can just
put it
integrate
out.
it. Now, will it change? Is there a way
It
that
gets
you can?
updated.
Okay, so it's
Yeah.
already updated on
Yeah.
that side.
Exactly.
This is why we're using the new agenda.
Right.
So it's just automatic. That would be fantastic.
So
Fingertips.
the second bill tracker would be the Rural Alliance also does a bill tracker.
Okay.
So we could have both those bill trackers on the attachment section of the agenda.
Okay, that'd be great, good idea. And then lastly, I'm sorry, but I want to make sure you guys know, there is a variety, CASB is providing a variety of cafes. And I've talked about this before, but I want to just say it again, there's a new board member cafe that they have each month, and it's once a month, about an hour, and it's a Zoom. And this, they're really trying to just educate new board members around their roles. And this month's gonna be Open Records Act. So I can send you those links as well and make sure that you're aware of them. I go to the Rural Board Members Roundtable, which is usually, again, once a month, and then I'm doing the LRC Zoom meetings as well, which is twice a month. So I'm just trying to get information that may affect our district one way or the other. And then lastly, I told you I was gonna go see legislators. I was planning initially to go at the beginning of February, which they have visits to the Capitol, and that's where you can talk to our legislators about our platform, our goals around the three goals that we created as a board. I decided after talking to Matt that I was gonna go to the Winter Legislative Conference, which is at the end of February, because they have a whole morning with legislators at the Capitol, so I'll be able to talk with them there without having to set up all these individual meetings.
That's
And then during that conference, we have a gathering, a dinner in the evening again, where we can meet a lot of the legislators and talk with them about our different platforms. So just wanted to just make you aware that it's the Winter Legislative Conference. If anybody else is interested on the board to attend, I'd be glad to drive up with you. I'm taking a district vehicle, so if anybody else is interested.
And what are those dates again?
The date for the Winter Legislative Conference is February 29th to 30th, and then it ends at noon on March 1st. And it's in Denver. And that's where we can see again our legislators and also talk with them at dinner. So.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you,
Thank you.
Victor.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. And then that's CAS, so that is your CASB
Yes,
report as
Yes,
well.
thank you.
Okay, great. So we're going to move on to our BOCES report. Ms. McWhorter, if you would like
And
to.
we, actually, there's only 10 meetings in a year, so January is a month that we didn't have a meeting. So I have no report.
Right. Minutes.
Tim,
Well, I saw that I'm supposed to be timed.
you are a timekeeper. Okay, all right. Next up is our superintendent report, Mr. Cordray, if you would take it away, please.
So I had the opportunity to meet with our legislators in Denver. I went up for the case legislative day, which was January 17th. The folks at CASE did a little interview of the school districts going up, and there were about 50 school districts that were there. And we did have a lunch and have an opportunity to talk to our legislators. And they were also kind enough to make this kind of talk sheet so that we could share interesting things with our legislators as well as share what our priorities are. And so we were able to share that, you know, the Mancos School District, as the oldest operating high school in the state, that our district size puts us as the median-sized school district in the state. And that we are very proud that one of our teachers was a finalist for Colorado Teacher of the Year. In addition, under some other notable points, that we won the 8-man football championship, that we have 5 productive career pathways, and that we do a lot to support our students with emotional and psychological development. In addition, I was able to share the board's platform with the legislators, which was that the number one challenge we have as a school district is what we pay our staff, and how that's especially a challenge when we have Durango School District within 25 miles and school districts in New Mexico just south of the border for us. In addition, I shared with them that another major challenge we're having is supporting our students with high emotional needs, and how much this board really appreciated the conversation around the buy down of the budget stabilization factor, and how that's a good starting point for funding for school districts. So Case was good enough to make this for us, which was really helpful, and I have shared that with you. In addition, Mr. Hunter has been helpful as we look to our phase 2 evaluation of the bus barn property. As we have Tim and I have a meeting later this week, I believe it's Thursday, and we're looking at, you know, we're a long way from building our own housing for staff, and there's gonna be many, many questions to answer. So by no means do I want to hype this, because it's a long path, and we don't even know if this is what we want to do as a district. But what we are doing now is we're simply clearing out some of the barriers to making that decision, whether or not we even have a decision to make. So Mr. Hunter and I will have a meeting on Thursday. They'll be coming out on February 5th through February 8th. And so you're going to see heavy equipment on the bus barn as they start to do some core evaluation, and they'll be taking some sampling of our soil 20 feet down, 30 feet down and into the ground. So as you see activity there, February 5th through February 8th, that's what's going on there. They have promised not to disrupt our transportation operation for those days, and they have plenty of room to bring in their trucks for that. Last Friday, we had a handful of district staff, mostly administrators, that went through a district threat assessment training. So we can learn the skills to be able to do threat assessments efficiently and effectively. You know, just on this training, which there'll be further trainings, but at this training, we had the dean from the elementary, the counselor from the elementary, the principal from the elementary, the secondary principal, our safety and security director, myself, and maybe even some others, but all those did that full day training last Friday, and it was really helpful. Just prior to the meeting, I shared with our staff a memo around instructional rounds. So during the fall, the instructional leadership team has conducted over 50 classroom observations. And from that, we discussed with our consultant, Dr. Kathy Gabriel from Fort Lewis College, that the area of focus we want to focus on for the spring is differentiation. And differentiation, how it relates to project-based learning. So I shared with you our spring form for the instructional rounds. And that will be a way for us to gather information throughout preschool through 12th grade. The classroom practices as it relates to differentiation. This will allow us to have some targeted professional development as well as whole district professional development around project-based learning and differentiation. So I hope you'll find that memo interesting. It certainly is really thoughtful in the way that work was done in the fall. And then just the last thing I wanted to share with you is tomorrow's a regional San Juan Bosse superintendent meeting where all the regional superintendents, including Durango, will get together in Ignacio for a full day retreat. And part of what we'll be discussing is the situation with Cortez School District, because they did submit their paperwork for an appeal, and what that group would look like if Cortez was granted an appeal by the CDE Executive Commissioner of Education, Susanna Cordova. And so I'll be meeting with that group tomorrow, and we meet monthly as a regional team of superintendents, in addition to a robust a robust text conversation whenever snow starts to move in. We're all texting in the wee hours of the morning just to see how the roads are throughout the region. And Madam President, that's all I have for my report.
I just want to emphasize Todd's work with the housing thing and working with the town. We're getting an environmental assessment through the brownfield study that we're not paying for, which is easily, I mean, I used to charge $50,000 to $80,000 to do these kinds of assessments, where they're doing complete phase 2 sampling, groundwater sampling, soil sampling. And we're getting this to have in our portfolio for our properties so that we know what's out there. And that's a big deal. It's a real big deal.
Well, just to piggyback on that, Mr. Jason Armstrong at the town has been instrumental in getting this lined up and making the connections so we can. And depending on how this assessment comes back, we hope to also be able to put together a development plan, which would allow for maybe a 3-plex or a 4-plex on the property at no cost to the district also. So we're getting this additional information, and really, I don't want to make anyone nervous about what we're doing here. It's a big deal to have any sort of district housing. We're a long way from doing that, but we're at least removing barriers so that as a school district, we can decide to make that decision or not. There's going to be plenty of pros and cons as to that's the right thing for us. Ultimately, we would like to be able to pay our staff a wage where they could afford to buy houses here, and we wouldn't need any sort of support from the school district. It is a stretch to our mission to get into housing. Our mission is really the emotional, psychological, and academic well-being of our students.
Just Todd, just some feedback, and I sent you guys some links to some different resources, but that's a constant discussion in our rural roundtable is rural housing. So that's an issue across the state.
It's not something
Denver
we-
posted 5 pages on it on their Sunday edition on just housing in general and the lack thereof across the state.
It's not something that we are alone in, nor is it something that we will solve alone. But I like the idea that we're doing to use your language, Mr. Cordray, we're removing the barriers So we'll know where we stand, we'll know what our land has, and that alone is more than we had 6 months ago, so. Well, to be determined yet, probably over a greater period of time. And the town involvement, just a quick question, can you just maybe reaffirm, what their, why are they riding alongside of us so well, and what is that interest? I mean, obviously they get the same feedback, but.
So as we were working on this last summer, our educational task force, we invited Jason to be part of that committee. And so he's headed up the committee along with Mr. Hunter around the housing. And between those two expertise of those individuals, that's how we've gotten to where they're at. Also, as we start to look at development, then there's going to be town fees associated with any development. And it puts them in an opportunity to have full information to be able to determine what they can support us with. And there's a possibility that they'll be able to reduce or eliminate some of the fees because of the type of entity we are and the type of partnership we have with the town. So between the work of Mr. Armstrong and the town administrator, Ms. Alvarez, we're really fortunate to have that relationship, not to mention the relationship with the trustees. So it only makes sense in an environment this size that we have strong relationships, and I'm glad that we do.
Yeah.
The town is just as concerned about the housing issue in general.
I'm sure.
It's endemic across the state.
Any other questions for Mr. Cordray? Okay, Chrissy, business manager report, you're up.
So tonight, presenting you a balanced budget. There's really not a lot of changes from when I discussed it all with you guys during the work session. The only thing is the per pupil funding came in a little bit less than what was predicted. It was only $17 a student, but it was $17 lower than what we were projecting it to be. So there was just some little minor tweaks that I had to do to offset that decrease in funding there. So really, if you don't have questions from our last discussion last time, everything's pretty much exactly the same. You'll see the appropriation and the beginning fund balance resolutions tonight. So with that balanced budget, there is that beginning fund balance resolution that is required to balance the budget of $272,000 coming out of general fund reserves. So keep that in mind. I know that's on paper. So if we don't spend every line item within our budget and we have some unspent money, that decreases that deficit spend. So hopefully it'll be zero. We'll just have to see how our budget shakes out. And then you'll also see there's a salary schedule on the action items. And that was just because of minimum wage increase. We had to adjust those there. That's why that's on there. Really, that's it. I don't really have anything else if you guys don't have questions. I mean, Victor kind of talked about the DS factor, which was great. And we'll just hope that the governor's request for 24-25 does buy that down to zero.
I think it's prudent to bring to light that we are chasing the minimum wage in the school district.
No.
We are trying to keep up with the minimum wage and constantly going back to our salary schedules to readjust to affirm that our employees are meeting minimum wage, which is actually quite sad.
At least this year was the first year within our regular salary schedules. We were above minimum wage by a hair, what we were, but the substitute salary. So on that one I sent you, it's just substitute pay that we had to adjust.
Yeah.
And it was for custodians, kitchen, and bus drivers. For substitute pay is what I had to increase.
Understood.
But yeah, it'd be nice if we could get those salary schedules a little up there, a little ways. We need to work on that. So
Yes.
we'll see what happens next year. But really, that's all I have, unless you guys have any questions.
Any questions? No? Okay, next up is the presentation of Mr. Cordray's superintendent evaluation. It is a discussion item. We have done quite a bit of very thoughtful work. This is, I will say, I feel as though this exercise this year specifically has been an accumulation of at least 3 years worth of work in which we have established a very mindful template format, if you will, with some very thoughtful objectives, and the process took many people besides who are just sitting here at this table today. This was the first year, and it is my 3rd year, that I felt as though this process was a bit easier as a board member. Not necessarily, this has nothing to do with as we evaluate Mr. Cordray personally, but in establishing a really robust, thoughtful superintendent evaluation. So I thank the board for their work in that. Also the 2 newest members of the board who had extra work, because they're kind of playing a little bit of catch up and having to do even more in terms of conversation and research and understanding the form. And so in the use of that, I would like to go around and just make sure that that everybody's voice is heard. And then I will summarize and wrap up as we present. So I will start with, how about you, Mr. Hunter?
I
Anything
don't
to
have
say?
anything to add. I mean, the comments and the way we went over it, I thought it was, as you say, it was pretty robust, and we spent a lot of time making it happen, and I'm really happy with the way the process has worked out, especially compared to many years in the past.
And any specific commentary around Mr. Cordray's evaluation specifically that you want to call out?
I don't have anything specific.
Okay. Mrs. McCord.
But as being, only a board member for a very short time before doing this, I do want to thank Mr. Carter for your honest self-evaluation, because that gave me a lot of information to go on. Since again, I haven't seen a lot of this in action yet, so thank you for being as upfront and honest with that one.
It is very helpful. Mr. Figueroa?
Emily, I think that you summarized it nicely. I thought this year was the first year that it felt like it was a much more comprehensive and easier way for us as board members to determine where Mr. Cordray was on the different standards. One of the reasons I felt like that made that was easier this time is because we again adjusted and modified the evaluation, and we put underneath each standard some particular identifiers or some strategies or goals that would identify where Mr. Cordray was in each of the standards. And that helped a lot as it related to what work has been done, what work still needs to be done. So as I did that, I found myself being able to provide much better feedback and more accurate feedback as it relates to that. Matter of fact, I mean, next year I'll just identify through feedback the different areas that are the goals underneath it as feedback. Because I felt like that was self-explanatory. We said there were 4 areas and we hit all 4, then that was self-explanatory to me. That was the feedback.
Right.
But
I felt like that made a tremendous difference for me to process the information.
Mr. Benally?
I really found the evaluation process to be, as being new to the whole process and evaluating Todd and not getting like the full scope of what he's done for the year, having the ability to go through the evaluation that his self-evaluation really was instrumental in kind of seeing where he's at in the process, but then also giving that framework to me to be able to see the direction that we want the superintendent to go and also the direction the board is headed. So I really appreciate that. And, yeah, I really appreciate Todd's honesty and his directness as far as his own evaluation and all the work that he's done thus far has really been apparent and very helpful as a board member.
Excellent. So to summarize, for the public's knowledge, Mr. Corder's review, came in under, a rating of what we deem a strong command. And just to highlight a few, items, Mr. Corder, if I may. Those things that, in summary, some of them that we noticed as a whole collectively, specifically relating to instruction and achievement, were that Mr. Cordray has really built a team, an administrative team that is becoming very eloquent at presenting information and reporting, both on the instructional process as well as the strat plan. I think now the either strat plan or strategic plan is becoming more and more part of our normal language, and it's work that we're all doing, and it's becoming much more accepted, and people are really mindful of that. Carrying out plans that have been put in place, these are things that we really were not talking as much about, some of them not at all, prior to this year even, which are our MTSS process, our pathways, our project-based learning and the drive for that, along with the training, and of course the strat plan, which show that growth in instruction and achievement. Also, Mr. Cordray implementing coaching and professional training. And then this year, we're working pretty significantly on bringing a curriculum review process to the board versus a curriculum review, oh, by the way, this is going to happen, but we're really, we've seen him formalize process in order to anticipate the need and not respond to the need, right? Some highlights in terms of culture and human resources, which vitally important. Professional development, we are seeing this come together and be executed, not always just in buildings, but also district-wide. Instructional coaching, classroom observations, as he was just discussing, instituting the development of specific policy manuals. We are working, Mr. Cordray is working with his administration and staff on many different policy manuals to be put in place. As we did our policy work, we were very quickly realizing that there was more to be done, and he has jumped into that. Mr. Cordray recognizing the need for a human resources director for our district, which is going to be a challenge since we have very limited assets. Where we've just discussed trying to meet minimum wage, and yet his vision is that we at some point, at some time, have an actual HR director for this district. I know Chrissy picks up a lot of that work, Mr. Cordray does a lot of that work, and that is pretty typical of many districts, that people do more than one job, but that doesn't mean it's the best job or the best way to go about doing that job. We have seen instruction specifically in conjunction with the strat plan being implemented in the district. Again, I said earlier, really involving the entire district. And then in regard to the board itself and management, we have observed Mr. Cordray as with an open door policy. Communication is improving. We have all noticed and discussed that at many board members. And Mr. Cordray and Ms. Miller, Chrissy, have consistently done a remarkable job, as evidenced this evening, with presenting balanced budgets and then keeping us within our balanced budget, if not under budget. And that becomes even more important as we move forward and look at all of those needs that we are trying to create out of a limited budget, not just supporting the beautiful school that has recently been improved, but the need for additional positions and so forth. And then in final, in terms of just relations with the community, I think that people will notice or have noticed that Mr. Cordray is active in our community with our local and state administrators. He just reported tonight, coming back from Denver after being up there, representing the district through the chamber and a variety of other organizations in town, and has brought a significant amount of grant funding to this district, all of which we are watching very closely, have a coordinator even working on that so we do not lose sight of where those grants are. Chrissy's nodding her head very strongly, where those grants land, how they're being used, when they come up for renewal. I don't want to misquote a number, but I know that it was close to $1 million last year. That's a lot of money to come in a school district door in the form of a grant or in form of grants. And then additionally, I don't think that we can go without saying that his leadership with Mancos United has proven to show that it is a valuable resource to both the district as well as our community, and he continues to serve there as those two groups, or that group works very closely with the district. Therefore, under a strong command, what that means is that we view that he has met many of the commands in a clear and concise fashion. Hold on, I want to read it correctly. Pardon me, I'm in the wrong spot here. This is a very robust form, as we were saying. It's very long. I'm in the right place. So the goals being met with appropriate resources, actions, the outcomes are easily and recognizably demonstrated. There's thorough data and thorough feedback. There is one more level that Mr. Cordray is striving for, although I got to tell you, he was knocking at its door, and that is a distinguished command. So I personally feel very fortunate to be able to work alongside Mr. Cordray. I've worked alongside him more in the last 6 to 8 months than I had my previous time with the district. And it has been a blessing for me to be able to kind of step into this role and have some assistance from a highly qualified, not only professional, but educator as well. So, Mr. Cordray, with that being said, we all very much appreciate what you do on the daily, the weekly, the monthly. He's here on many Saturdays. He's here nights and weekends. He matches work ethic. I mean, it would be hard pressed to find anyone to match his work ethic. So we appreciate you very much. And thank you for your service to the district.
Thank you.
All right. That will be available on the school website for people to review. If they would like to review the actual evaluation, it will be up there. And as we all started out the conversation, I would highly recommend that you go look at our form, because we really like our form a lot. It took a lot of time to come up with that. Okay, we're gonna move on to our strategic plan. We are looking at our PBL objective report 4C. And just to kind of launch us, we're gonna be reviewing and discussing. 4C is the Mancos School District secondary students have the opportunity to identify and pursue individual interests and talents. Students can demonstrate mastery of grade level content through these academic pursuits. And we actually did this work, or we've been doing this work now for at least a month. So tonight is it really in regard to where we believe that we are at in the discussion related to that. Tim, do you want to, maybe I see you have everything there in front of you. Do you want to start us off, sir?
No, I've reviewed it, and again, these reports have been coming back. I'm impressed with just the report writing and the amount of data that's involved that's coming to us from the administrative team. It's opened my eyes a little bit on and helped to really put in perspective what our strategic plan is about and what's being accomplished via the strategic plan. I mean, I'm impressed. I actually, as I said before, I actually enjoyed reading it because it was concise, it was informative, and it wasn't just put me to sleep reading.
And you know, I would piggyback on that to just bring to light, anybody can read these reports. They are on our website and they do contain a wealth of information and data. There was a bit of discussion earlier in regard to 4C and the District Accountability Committee looking at that particular report and having feedback, which I value that feedback coming out of a parent slash teacher, employee, community member panel. Those were some really great points that were brought up. And I do believe that those will be taken back to Mrs. Farrar, who does much of the gathering and drafting of these reports. She's not here to hear it, but she will. And so this particular report has still a bit more work to be done. But just to point out, it is 15 pages as drafted right now. So if anybody has any questions on what are our secondary students doing? How are they going after what they want to do? What is the school offering? This is the report to read, and it's not final yet. So that process is for us to kind of go back and forth with Mrs. Farrar and others and say, but what about this? What about this? We usually do that work in our work sessions if anybody's interested in attending work sessions. So to continue on, Mrs. McWhorter, do you have anything you want to call out about it? Are you?
I think thank you. I think the main thing that we need to look at for next year, mostly is around the word capstone. If we're gonna call this a capstone project, we need as a board to be able to identify what it is that we want is a capstone. I think that was where a lot of our discussion was before. I really like the idea of a digital portfolio. And I like what Kaylin and Sarah brought up is from the DAC to do that as the junior year. I see a lot of students come through. I have a lot of seniors that I work with, and they are completely overwhelmed senior year. So if they could put this together junior year, I think that would be fantastic. So I think we need to build that in when we go through and update the strat plan. I think those are two things we really need to look at. I think for this one in particular, I was gonna ditto what you guys said, that it was very well put together with the information that we have. But I think those are two things that we need to look at
Wrapping into it.
moving forward.
Mr. Figueroa?
Yeah, I think you guys hit it. I think capstone is probably the biggest question. But I think we have a pathway, at least to how we think we want to get it. I really like Dak's recommendation. I think that it's true. I had a daughter graduate last year. So it would have been nice to have that kind of put together in 11th grade, because we put it all together kind of as we were going through the beginning of 12th grade. So, and we didn't put it together, the capstone, but all the information that could be helpful in the capstone could be used. So, from that perspective, that's a good idea. And I have to give Ms. Audion a lot of kudos. The report is a lot easier to read, a lot easier to understand, a lot of good information, and the grades that we're giving where we are from a district perspective, as far as whether we are at standard or below standard or above standard. Those are all really well done within the context that I rarely will look at it now and say, I don't know about that. It's pretty accurate. So the information that says that is provided, and it's easier to follow that. So big kudos to Ariane.
Good strength. Mr. Benali?
I'd have to say just being new to the board and new to the strat plan and these reports, it's amazing to have all that information gathered so concisely and more and more repeat on fire hose. But I find a lot of value in it. One thing that I did appreciate was the information and concerns and opinions from the DAC concerning the strat plan. I like the discussions around the timeline and how that factors in, just having kids in the district now, that are gonna be part of this moving forward, it's kind of giving me a little anxious attention to it. I don't want to say anxiety, but just making sure that, make sure that it's workable. And I like that the reports are very informative and allow for those discussions.
And I think to piggyback on your commentary, Craig, one of the things that I will point out, and I sit in somewhat of a similar chair in that I have a student that will soon be entering into high school. I think to point out some specifics around the robustness of the report that will help parents or community members or anyone understand is that she has really been able to roll in definitions. She has, in regard to this particular objective, she's listed out, here's all the concurrent enrollment classes that we actually have now. Here are the pathways. Here are the certifications. Here is what we are, here's what's in place now. Here's what's in place that we need to define. So it's not just she's even got our graduate competencies listed and demonstrated as per what those are. It's not just here's where we're at. It is a thorough from start to finish reporting, which would allow anyone really to read it and understand fully where we are at. And she did a tremendous job with that. These reports, as we move forward year to year, will change, but I do want to call out that the amount of work she's doing on some of these reports initially is monumental because they are from scratch. And she will not write a from scratch report forever, that it will definitely be gone back, it will be looked at, it'll be torn apart, it'll be put back together. But this is starting with a blank sheet of paper in many, many instances. Would you concur?
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, as this governance process develops, there's a lot of front loading to it. And as a school district, we're really fortunate to have such a talented writer and researcher putting this information together. I think it allows us to have the best governance process in the state. It brings our strategic plan to life, and then it allows the board the information that you all need to edit the strategic plan, tweak it every June so that it's a living document. So, and then the fact that the transparency of these reports lives on our website, I encourage the parents and the community to read these reports. They'll learn all kinds of incredible things about the school district.
When I used to sit on that side of the room, I would struggle understanding what some of the concepts were or some of the topics even were. Granted, I had a young child, but I'm an educated person and I would struggle because I'm not an educator. So I would concur and encourage people to, if you don't know, all you have to do is read the report and you will know a lot more by the end of it because of the way they're written. They're written really well for anyone to understand, so. All right, so that is still under review. We'll go back and she will make some changes. We will look at the approval of that or the action to accept it next month. Next up is we do have our board action to accept both objective 2B and 2C. So we'll start with 2B tonight. This is also still strat plan work. So objective 2B is the Mancos School District students demonstrate emotional intelligence and trauma-informed competencies in their day-to-day interactions with peers and adults. That is our first objective report to accept, discuss.
I do wanna just point out one major thing, the Botman life skills training, which is the teen health study for 9th and 10th graders. That's great information in there. People should look at that. It's on a 3-year, it's on 2 years of information, 2021 and 2022, and then the state I thought that was really helpful, but what's more important is I like the way the district's looking at that information and identifying areas that look pretty good and areas that they really need to investigate more, possibly provide more support around. That goes along with the Healthy Kids survey that they did with the high school. I thought, again, there was a tremendous amount of good information in that. And again, I have to tell the school district that I am 100% around identifying what's that data really say, what's that mean for us, and what are we gonna do if we feel like those are concern areas. So what I look forward to is we have what the results are, which is great. We have identified areas of concern. The next step is, so how are we going to address those concerns as we move forward? And some of that is in the report already. So I appreciated that information. It was very informative. And it's really about the health of our kids.
These 17 pages are packed with data.
17.
I know he's holding up.
I mean, it really is, and it does show that we're doing pretty darn well comparatively.
Yeah.
In particular, comparatively to a lot of other places. So I encourage people to read it, look at it if they have any concerns about what our kids are actually learning. This shows how and why.
I really appreciate it that the report highlights the work that's being done to go from being a reactive environment for the needs and well-being of students, to being more of a proactive, providing an environment where, it's safe for them to identify and verbalize their needs when it comes to their emotional wellness and health. It's really good to see. I can, just being on the board and having access to some of the staff and what the work that they're doing, it does track with what we're trying to do within the strategic plan, and I really do appreciate that.
There's a lot of pictures. I mean, graphs, the pie charts and graphs. So it makes it easier for me.
Yeah, I think that, again, just to go back to some of the content that is included within the report itself, that there is not just a reporting, there is a definitionally certain templates or charts, if you will, for these are the processes or the steps that we go through in regard to certain behaviors. This is, so it's very driven towards understanding what the district is doing from a social, emotional, trauma-informed, not just reading and writing, but actual, the work that the counselors are doing, the work that the deans are doing, the work that the district does in relation to our student population that is not just teaching them a skill out of a book. That really is, I think, the guts of the report, if you are interested at all in that. Yeah, it's pretty thorough. So, good work here. Does anybody want to make a motion as to how to accept the report?
I move that we accept this report of Objective 2B as approaching standard.
The second,
Heather called a question.
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter. Aye.
Or was it
I think it was at standard is how the report's written.
It's written in two parts, so
it's two, there's two parts, yeah.
That
Can we
is-
clarify that and then go
Sure.
back?
So as we look at this, as we look at the rubric, the first objective, or the first part of the objective shows approaching standard.
Correct.
So that was actually the second one, but 3 of the 4 were at standard. So the report was written at standard. But, it really could be, you know, the board's judgment if they want all of them to be at standard or better, to be at standard, or if it's more of an averaging sort of basis, then it would be, you know, whatever the preponderance is.
Well, I think if we could be mindful enough to say that 3 of the 4 are at standard, so maybe we could modify our motion if necessary, to really call that out. Because 3 of the 4 are at standard, there's 1 approaching, which does need to be spoken, that it is approaching and not at standard. I think that's probably where many of us are at, and that we don't want to lose sight of that. That doesn't mean we drag everything down. Can we modify it that way?
And I misspoke just a little bit. There's really 5 elements. 4 of the 5 are at standard. 1 of the 5 is at approaching standard, and none of the 5 are at above standard.
Correct. Above standard is pretty significant for anything, so I just wanted to be clear there.
Well, you didn't declare the vote yet,
I did not,
so we can amend the vote.
correct?
And I will revise to be at standard. Like Mr. Carter said, 4 of these are at standard and 1 was approaching. And I will revise that to modify the motion to put this at standard.
And I'll second that.
Heather called a question.
Craig Finale.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Kim Hunter.
Aye,
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye.
Excellent.
thank you, Todd.
Sure, thank you.
I did the same thing you did. I was like, hold on. Let me take a look at this again. Okay.
Since you didn't call the vote, then that makes it easy.
Okay, so we are now going to move on to objective 2C, which we are in the same place with 2C, in that we have done the work and now we are looking at board action to accept the objective report. Objective 2C is that the Mancos School District adult stakeholders demonstrate high standards of professionalism in all district-related interactions. And to be able to pull this quickly.
So this one's a really unusual one. So this is one we've never done before, and as we were looking at the rubric and the evaluation, we as an administrative team feels like there's work to be done on this standard. And until that work's done in June, we feel it's best to accept this objective as unable to determine the outcome at this time, till we're able to work with the board in June modifying the objective.
Should we just table this, any kind of acceptance on this at this point in time?
Yeah, I think just, no
Because of
acceptance
that?
rating, correct?
Yeah, because we don't. I don't
Yeah,
think
I wouldn't
we
want
need
to table it because we're just gonna have to keep tabling it until we rewrite it. So I think we should just put it as, like, Mr. Carter said, that this one is just gonna be one that we just do not have
A rating.
a rating for, and then just move past that, because you're right, because when we talked about the first time, there was a lot of discussion around personal privacy and what, like how do we even define what is professionalism? And I think until us as a board define these rubric a little bit better, there really isn't any data we could use to accurately measure.
And I think for transparency's sake, we still post this, but just as presented, so that there's full transparency to the public also.
100% agree.
Then I move, since we have reviewed this objective 2C and it is in process, that we accept this as a non-rated with further work to be done after our June session.
So can I just ask a question?
Sure.
So just for the purpose of transparency.
Yeah.
Can we put some information that this is work to be done in June, or something on the website when we put this on? Because When we say it's unrated, it's not enough, that doesn't explain why it's unrated. It's unrated because.
Right, so I'll put some
Well,
language
those
around it,
reasons all.
it's unrated until the board in June has time to evaluate and edit the rubric for the evaluation of the
Something
standard.
like that,
So
that explains.
I'll put that language in as well.
Okay, and now you can.
Yeah, so I move we accept this as in process with no rating.
I second.
Heather called the question.
Craig Manali?
Aye.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Tim Hunter,
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown,
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We have some work to be done. Let's see here. Okay, we're down to our action items. Mr. Hunter, you always help me out here.
Yeah, so I would make a motion to approve action items A through E as consent.
I second.
Heather called the question.
Craig Manali,
Aye.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Tim Hunter,
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown,
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye.
Motion carries.
The motion carries. Thank you.
And so,
You wanna look at F first?
yeah,
Budget?
I move for our fiscal year 24 final budget.
Gonna be,
Yeah, here, I've got it. Be resolved by the Board of Education of Mancos School District RE-6 in Montezuma County, the amount shown in the following schedule be appropriated to each fund as specified in the January budget for the ensuing fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, and ending June 30th, 2024. The general fund, $10,256,077.16. The preschool fund, $401,537.11. The food service fund at $330,626.77. The bond redemption fund at $804,641.07. The capital reserve projects at $351,826, and the pupil activity fund of $270,847, for a total appropriation of $12,415,555.11. It's a lot of
Do we
money.
have a second?
I second that.
Heather called the question.
Craig Manali,
Aye.
Victor Figueroa,
Aye.
Tim Hunter,
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown,
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
Aye.
Motion carries. 10.
And then I make a motion that authorizing use of a portion of beginning fund balance as authorized by Colorado statutes, whereas Colorado Revised Statute 2444-105 states that the budget duly adopted pursuant to this article shall not provide for expenditures in interfund transfers or reserves in excess of available revenues in the beginning fund balance, whereas the Board of Education may authorize the use of a portion of the beginning fund balance in the budget, stating the amount to be used, the purpose for which the expenditure is needed, and the district's plan to ensure that the use of the beginning fund balance will not lead to an ongoing deficit. Whereas the Board of Education has determined the beginning fund balance is sufficient to allow for the one-time expenditure, and the action will not lead to an ongoing deficit. Now therefore be it resolved in accordance with Colorado Revised Statutes 2244-105, the Board of Education authorizes use of a portion of the fiscal year 24 beginning fund balance from the following funds. From the general fund, a total amount of $272,209. Of this amount, $70,000 will be used to provide professional development to the district staff for project-based learning, $43,609 to purchase elementary ELA curriculum, $158,600 to capital reserve for future projects. The preschool fund for a total of $24,025.42. Of this amount, $14,025.42 is a carryover from unspent grant monies collected in fiscal year 23 from the building capacity grant, and $10,000 will be used for operating expenses. The lunch fund for a total of $9,398.74. These funds are a carryover from unspent grant money collected in fiscal year 23, $5,111.34 for supply chain assistance grant, $4,287.40 for summer food distribution, and be it further resolved, the use of this portion of the beginning fund balance in the general fund for the purpose set forth above will not lead to an ongoing deficit and will not need to be corrected in future years.
Sir, do we have a second?
I second.
Heather calls a question.
Craig Manelli.
Aye.
Victor Figueroa.
Aye.
Tim Hunter.
Aye.
Emily Hutchinson Brown.
Aye.
Rachel McWhorter.
I,
And the motion carries. I don't believe we had any public participation, so I think we're good to go on that. I am going to bring to light that, and I hope to do this, as many of you know, I'm all about planning, so I would like to, call out at the end of our meetings, not just, has there been anything discussed that needs to be put into our future agenda item, but we are actually going to, those things we know we will be discussing or responsible for, we will be calling out so that it sets our minds intentionally and also that everyone else is aware of what we're working on or what we plan on discussing. So in February, our work session is on the 12th and our board meeting is on the 26th of February. And we do have a work session before that 26th board meeting as well, correct?
Yes.
So we will have two work sessions as is typical, one on the 12th, one on the 26th, plus the board meeting on the 26th. We will have a discussion with school leaders about retention and recruitment. That is going to be at a work session, correct?
Yes,
Do we have a date at all yet or?
I
no?
think probably the 12th,
Maybe.
after we discuss, hopefully at the 12th between 5:30 and 6:30.
And these times and dates may not always be solid and things happen, but I do want to just bring to light that it's going to happen.
So can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
The work session, you said there's two this next month. So
Correct.
there's one on the 6th, what are we doing?
No.
The 12th
The 12th and,
The
and the
26th.
26th,
before our meeting.
but, oh, the board meeting.
before the board meeting, yeah,
Got it, got it, got it.
how we pair them together.
Got it.
So that discussion will hopefully be at the 12th, around recruitment and retention, and we're talking recruitment and retention for staff, for school employees. We will get I'm really looking forward to this one, a communication update, from our school district communication lead, Alice Miller. And that will be kind of a continuation of conversations going on for quite some time, but she has really done some tremendous work there and has had some training. So she will present that to us. We will be doing a review of objective 2A, which was, it will just be presented initially to us. It will be our initial review in a work session. And then also we will be looking at 4C for approval, which is the objective we looked at this evening and that DAC also had the time to look at. We will also be discussing the curriculum review cycle. This will really be a robust explanation of how curriculum is intended to come to process through the district and then come to the board, and how that really will look and who will be involved and what that timing will look like. It was clear to us as a board at the end of last school year that we just really needed to help ourselves with a process or an idea, so we were not all rushing to accommodate at the last minute. So this is really solidifying that cycle so that it is a cadence that everyone can keep up with, right? And since the board plays a role in that, that's why Mr. Cordray has been working on this for quite some time. And this is now the bubbling up of what you've put together with your teams so that we're all understanding and we agree and it makes sense and we have the time and the trust that everyone's doing the work they need to do. It's a lot of work. We will also follow up on our board linkage plan. And Mr. Hunter will be presenting his board linkage report from the chamber in February as well. And then there should be some discussion around, this will probably be work session work, just to solidify our board mission, our specific board mission, and this developing agenda. And then in final, we will also be doing a safety and security presentation and discussing the needs for a possible SRO, an ongoing discussion around SRO, but also just school safety and security. I know that Mr. Greenlee has been working quite a bit on many items, not just that SRO conversation. So I want to go backwards just briefly, quickly. Timekeeper.
I don't wanna sit next to you anymore.
Right? Put her down there.
I know. For this new agenda, it's a bit different, obviously, and one thing that is not at the very top of the agenda, and this goes way back for me to times when I was sitting on the other side or in the audience, but you will notice that our student population numbers are not heavily listed at the top of the agenda. That may not come back in the same fashion that it's always been. This was very, very helpful this month. This is like the nicest little snapshot, but I know that these insights, which is what CDE put together for us.
Case.
Or Case put together for us, this takes some time, right?
Mhm.
But it's always been something to just be mindful of how many students we have, what's the fluctuation in percentages, what's our student-teacher ratio. Historically in the past, we've seen those numbers, and this could even be years ago. Kaylin and I have discussed like what happened to 20 students. I mean, some of this was around COVID, but we've seen these jumps, and it's just mindful to pay attention to that. So we will bring that to light in a more concise way without it being a full table, right? And also calling out attendance fluctuation. And so that is part of what that future agenda, early graduation process will be, noting that, because that would have been a fluctuation in our attendance this month because we had some early graduates, and we'll be discussing that. Yeah, go, that audience member here. And she's still coming to DAC, God bless her. So, I don't want you all to think that if it's not here, it's lost. The other thing I want to point out is when this really fully comes together and hits its stride, I mean, I have 2 devices plus a stack of paper. I would love to have one thing in front of me. And if this really works, that's exactly how it's supposed to function, is that we just click, we can get to what we need, and we can go back and forth without having all of the stacks of paper and all of the back and forth. I appreciate that Mr. Cordray brought this more into the forefront. This was at our retreat that this happened at CASB, that this is the agenda that the district is using, the thoughtful process. And now it has made its way into our world. So that, I think, is really helpful to note. And it's old dogs can learn new tricks too. None of us are doing, we're not all adapting all the time, but we need to adapt too. So I am hopeful that we will all find our stride in this, and we will be able to do some work, and we will have help and support to get it kind of dialed in. And we love to have, please don't be hesitant to speak up if you need something or you see something that's not there. So that's the future. Is there anything else?
Just on the linkage, I am presenting to the chamber on Saturday and then to all of our nonprofits on February 10th. So I'll have 2 reports.
Oh, you'll have 2 reports. Thank you for bringing that to light. Great, Tim. You are on it this year, Mr. Hunter. Okay.
And we're gonna have a new presentation, PowerPoint presentation for the
Yes.
linkage for the rest of you when you do your turn.
Correct, and we've started working on that, and how that kind of goes out is it's a group effort. So we try to build a platform, and then we take that and we distribute it through everyone. And then we all, as individual board members, can then utilize that platform and then tweak as we present to each of our individual groups. We are still this will become work session work, but we are still kind of in formulation of who does what where, and we'll help you guys through that, so we'll get there. Tim's just an overachiever this year.
This will be my first time ever doing a PowerPoint presentation, just letting you know that I'm.
You've got.
So, just from the perspective, the board linkage follow-up and planning is really to nail down dates and months and who's doing what, right?
Correct, we kind of know who's doing what, but it's the dates and the
Well,
process.
they're a little confused. but-
The overarching date is, we need to do the work by the time June comes,
Right.
if at all possible. So you have between now and June to get with that group in which you are going to connect with and present, and then have a month to present your findings back here, Billy, reports. That's it. All right, with that, in mind, I will adjourn the meeting at 7:34, not, or